Alright, so here today we are with Steph Patch, and welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Steph is actually a curator, music curator,
Yeah.
and the owner of Patch Music. And you're Australian.
I am.
And
yes.
you are in Stockholm.
Absolutely.
And the reason we're sitting in Starbucks, you'll know later. But your experience is mainly with Universal, but now with your own company you're a brand curator, a music curator for a lot of brands. So tell us a little bit about your objectives for the company, for Patch Music.
Well, basically Patch Music is all about soundtracks, so it can translate to a load of different things. We've got the main sort of side of it is soundtracking for brands. So we can curate a certain sound and a really unique experience for brands, which is, it can be in store, in a hotel, in any kind of experience, but also the soundtrack for visual media as well. So we music supervise for film or TV and advertising, corporate videos, which can tie in really nicely with brands as well.
Okay.
So,
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right now, so we have talked a little bit about your objectives. Very clear. Thank you. Now you also have, in innovation and in the music development, you have an incredible experience. How is the concept going to change for the hospitality industry?
I think what's consistent with music is that everyone likes music, or in some form. It may not be the same type of music, but everyone has some kind of emotional connection to a certain style of music or has experienced music in their life. So that's the consistency. What will change is how we listen to it, and that's the industry of technology with music is changing faster than we can keep up. And at the moment it's really accessible and really it's so available. It's more available than ever to listen to music and change and really create a unique sound for a brand. So the fact that hotels or retail or anywhere can have platforms like Spotify or iTunes, or even record collections are even more available than they have ever been. So to be able to listen to music is so on hand and so easy and easy to have it legally as well, which is a great thing for the industry. So
it's suddenly changed, that's for sure.
Exactly, yeah. It's a brilliant thing to see turn around, because it was kind of going down a dark road there for a while. But it's great for branding as well, because it means that you can really form a unique sound, and for consumers that it makes us able to go and find exactly what we like rather than a generic sound. So you can dine somewhere that really suits you and your personality and your taste, or you can travel to places that are really unique and exactly what you like to experience.
Right. I mean, you mentioned this consistency, for example. Well, what are the core principles according to you? Creating a brand through music.
We take in a lot of different factors. So things like geography. So where the brand is placed. It could be a worldwide company, so it needs to apply to a load of different people. Or if it's in one place and it's really unique to that place, then we focus on that and who the demographics of people involved or consuming the product. It's also about acoustics, so for the actual in-store experience, is it a really bustling, busy place? Is it all tiles? Is it, it depends completely on what's in the actual space. The style of music can also vary depending on times of day, so maybe weekends are a completely different feel to weekdays, or Christmas holidays are different to the summer. So there's a lot of different factors.
Great, thank you. Right, so now we've talked about a bit more about the cores of the branding. Now, what type of restaurants and hotels are currently using this technique, this branding technique, and how is that going to change in the future?
I think some of the really bigger brands have embraced it completely, which is great, because it means every in-store experience has a sound that's consistent between the outlets. For example, McDonald's and Starbucks have both taken on Spotify Enterprise, which is a really easy platform to use. It's familiar because a load of people already use Spotify. And it keeps consistency between the brands. So it's great to see the really big brands taking that on. And I think as it becomes more accessible and more common, it will filter through to smaller brands as well. A lot of chains up to from 10 stores upwards have already embraced it, especially in the Swedish kind of Sweden and Scandinavian areas, because that's where Spotify Enterprise is currently launched. But as that spreads further afield, I think that's going to...
I mean, we see it quite a lot in hotels, particularly, of course, there's the public areas, but then, it's the restaurants that really apply it.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. But your client base varies very much.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's a lot of I guess the common element is cafes, restaurants, bars, because that's where people spend a longer time to experience more music and drinking and food and other things.
Sure.
But it definitely helps to have music in spaces like airports or parking garages or retail experience, which might only be a brief experience for the person, but the music can definitely affect how you behave and how if you return or if you don't like it, and how your experience is. So for example, in airports you want something quite calming because it's a stressful experience for a lot of people, and it can definitely affect your mood while you're there if you're tired or jet lagged, and the same for cafes. If you like the experience, it's a soothing, calming feeling. Having music playing while you're having coffee, it's a nice experience and you want to go back, so it can create loyalty for a lot of places and a lot of people.
Great, thank you. Alright, so now we've talked about the different market segments, for example. Now, how can hotels establish a relationship through music or smell with their guests?
I think an experience for a human being is all about how your senses act and react to what's happening around you. So if it's a restaurant, of course the taste is a big part of that, but it's the smell and the sound and the visual side of it as well. So for hotels, I think music and smell are two key things that are really interesting, that can be explored more. Part of the experience is walking in, and of course what you see is blatantly in front of you, but smell and sound can creep in with really strong impacts as well. So a human can capture smell and sound with quite a strong feeling, and that's impacting on a memory, or whether they've smelled that smell before or heard that song before. It can remind them of something, or after having the experience, they can later reflect back to that great experience by hearing the song again or smelling that smell again. So for something like the smell of coconut sunscreen on a great holiday, that smell of coconut is going to take you back. And the same with a song. You might hear a great song while enjoying a really beautiful meal at your hotel, then it'll take you back to hearing that song and thinking about how great that experience was.
We just mentioned an example, what happened yesterday.
Exactly, the wine tasting and having a smell of the wine to start, and there was quite an earthy smell about it, and the memory triggered, took us back to a holiday as a child on a farm, and it's amazing how wine itself can smell like a holiday when you're 8 years old. So it's quite a strong impacting thing, and I think music can really affect you in the same way. Whether if you were holidaying in, say, New Orleans and you hear some jazz, you'll always think of jazz as taking you back to that holiday, that experience.
Absolutely.
So it's quite powerful.
Exactly. So now hotels, they often need to track a certain market segment. Now, how do you help them establish that, and then adjust the music accordingly? And what is that going to be in the future? How does that look in the future?
It's interesting because trends change people's own taste changes, and of course the hotels need to be flexible and change with that. So there is an element of keeping up with trends and keeping up with music ahead of the game. And again, back to Spotify and other forms of music being so accessible, it's quite easy these days to keep up with what's popular and filter that back through to who's playing it and the brands and how they're perceived by consumers. So it is important to keep up, and it might mean a complete re-overhaul of the style of everything. It might mean, you know, the visual side of everything, and the music needs to change with that in a totally new sense. Or it could mean just a slight change and a slight flavour. A cafe I've worked on, they have quite a French theme, and it's a patisserie, so they've got lots of pastries, and we really threw lots of French music in, so there's plenty of Edith Piaf and, you know, old school French sound. And they kind of wanted to change it more into an evening cocktail, a bit more upbeat, a bit more trendy. So we've removed the French element and put in a bit more of a house, like a bit more electronic element. And it just changed the flavour of it, and it just gave them a little edge that was new. And of course, people who are returning back to that cafe feel like they're keeping up. So it's important to kind of give that impression.
Fantastic. You are working, you know, like you said, with a lot of playlists. You also do playlists for Spotify Enterprise.
That's right.
Yeah. Which is actually playing right here in Starbucks as well. And that's amazing development for corporate companies, since they can use that in their lobbies or in public areas or whatever. What other type of innovation do you expect?
It's hard to say. I think we've reached quite a nice peak at the moment, so it's hard to know what will happen from here in terms of technology. What they've reached with such a simple interface, the fact that a lot of people already use Spotify translates beautifully to businesses also using it. The great thing, and hopefully what continues, is that it's legal and that more and more record labels come on board with making their music available. Obviously, if that happens, then more music is available, and it's in one place, and it's a really nice experience. So I hope the innovation happens with the record labels, and that they start to embrace it rather than turn against it or modify it. So that will be interesting to see how it turns out.
Now the music branding. You know, it's actually music is very often associated still with the generations X and Y. And you see that on the streets when everybody is walking around with the iPads, but you also, I mean, it's even though I had you know, a Walkman and, you know, a yellow one, a big one, but how does the industry keep, you know, the baby boomers or the earlier generations, how do they keep that warm as well?
I think it's important to remember that everyone listens to music, no matter what age. So it is important for businesses to incorporate music for whatever their demographic is for the brand. So it might be a restaurant or a bar, say, that's targeted at a younger crowd, say under 30s, and they of course can embrace things like hashtags or interactive things, so follow their playlist on Spotify, or more technology-based kind of things for younger people to embrace technology, because that's how they live at the moment. You know, it's a lot of technology focus, whereas the older generations may not be as involved or as interested in that as well. So if there's, say, a hotel for older generations, or a more relaxed environment that doesn't necessarily want to shout at everyone about their music, then that's a way that they can incorporate music is a lot gentler approach, a lot less intrusive, and that it's interesting because the demographics and the people in the different generations don't even realize, or may not realize, that it's even being decided in the background, but it's how they perceive it, and it's something for marketing companies or the brands themselves to think about how intrusive they're being and how involved their patrons want to be in the music. Some people can't wait to play the playlist of the brand, and other people are just not interested, and they just hope to have a nice experience so the music can play and they'll be happy.
I mean, it brings me to my last question actually. You already touched on it, but how will the I mean, the music industry obviously is developing all the time, like you say. But how will it like affect our lives in the future? You think? I mean, how is it gonna impact everything that we do or see or look at?
I think it's similar to what I just said, that it's happening there in the background, and if that happens in the best possible way or in the right way, then our personal experiences in restaurants or hotels or wherever we are, if music's playing, it will be right, and it's going to make your experience a lot more personal and a lot more memorable, and it means that you can find places that you really like and want to go back to, which to me is great. I love going back to a cafe and knowing that their food's great and the music's nice and the service is good. So
absolutely.
It's the same with traveling. You can stay in a chain of hotels that you know is going to be good. So I think music can really help brands in that sense. And just in general, listening to music is such a personal experience, so having it available through different services and platforms makes it more common and more, I don't know, more enjoyable, I guess, for everyone to listen to music.
Fantastic. I appreciate your time. Very interesting to speak with you and learn more about the music and the branding and your company, Batch Music. I mean, clearly there's a lot to be said for hotels, but the entire travel industry, airports, like you mentioned as well. It's very exciting, and I'm really excited to learn more about it as well, but also to use it for research and in the book and things like that. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Right.